I feel very in touch with my innate racism and prejudices, and I feel so conscientiously focused on not letting those things drive my choices. And I look around and see so many people that even on my worst day are far less conscientious about that than I am. So I see a country and a world that's full of racist, prejudiced people who are doing racist, prejudiced things that we hear about all the time. And the fact that we no longer have slavery does not change like this sort of, really entrenched racism that started our country, and everything we've done has just been a product of that,
Your dad is gay. He and Tom were lovers. My dad's a gay fag. Yeah, I actually say that. It's the first time I'm processing that there are actually gay people in the world, not just Rock Hudson jokes. My father joins us in the bedroom and immediately begins outing various family and friends. Uncle Mitchell, Aunt Darlene, Steve Weiss, they're all gay too. Then he warns me not to tell my mother. She knows these plans, why they broke up. But they've decided not to tell us yet. No fucking clue what comes next.
And if you're a waspy American, you were slave owners or whatever, there's that. And if you're black and you were slaves, and if you think, I always think, oh, I'm different because I'm Jewish or whatever, or Italians or Irish. But the fact is, then, Chinese people, Koreans, we're just that much more insular in our little group. We might not be on the binary of, white slave owners and black slaves, but we're still a group in this country that looks down on the other groups and feels separate.
On the road to San Francisco in Gary's black Jetta, somewhere along the 5, my father starts ranting and raving that he wants to kill himself. Gary's trying to calm him down and drive at the same time, and Lucy is a mess, begging him not to do it, saying she'll kill herself too. None of this seems to affect my father, although he does suggest that I'd be happier if he were dead, and Lucy is the only one who ever loved him. Gary gets him to take some pills, and he passes out for the rest of the 6-hour drive.
I mean, look at all this Freudian crap we talk about, just even you and I today. If those things that my father went through with his sexuality affect me, of course slavery affects the people's children. Of course it affects their grandchildren. And maybe if you were born to slaves but never met them and were adopted by some other family, maybe there would be a minimal amount of effect. Although I do think it would still have an effect on who you are.
Of course.
But if your grandparents were even as watered down the effects of slavery as to have had grandparents who were slaves, because it was such a part of their parents' lives, and then they made it such a part of your parents' lives, that's actually, I don't think it's down to like 15% of what it meant to be a slave,
No.
I think it's probably down to 70%, I mean, I don't know the math, and I think that has nothing to say about how much racism those people have still experienced in their lives in real time, let alone actual racism. The effects of racism, not just on black people, but on white people. Not as victims, but to have that racism still entrenched in how they see the world, our country, other people.
Back in LA, Lucy and I are helping my father carry moving boxes from the apartment to the car, and he stops, kneels down, and gestures toward the scar on his wrist. You see this? You must never tell anyone about it, or they'll try to take you away from me. Unless, of course, you don't want to see me anymore. No, Daddy, of course we want to see you. Well, then this has to be our little secret. But Daddy, won't people see? Won't they know? I'll just say this. Think nothing of it. I cut myself shaving.
Morals are a slippery thing, and it's very difficult to make moral proclamations because it starts to infringe on other people's freedom. And one of the primary things I believe in morally is people's intrinsic rights to freedom. But something that is a really clear moral principle for me is that everyone should have the right to do and say whatever they want, with the exception of if that interferes with other people's rights to do and say what they want. And to me, that seems like a very clear idea that I constantly see being negated, or people trying to negate that. And or then sort of talking about that in some relative terms as if that were not so clear. And I think that is very clear. I don't think that is too complicated or relative to be useful. I think that is like ultimately the most important thing in society.
I'm sorry, kids, but I just can't take it. I've tried! Lord knows I have tried! Your fucking mother wants to squeeze every last cent out of me. She's flying off to Argentina with George while I'm working weekends with the Mexicans for a pittance. We won't be anyone's dog. I'm sorry I failed in our marriage. I'm sorry I lied to her and had sex with men, but it's not as bad as those husbands who sleep around with other women. It's not the same. And I always gave her good sex. I was a giving lover with her. She can't complain in that department. She's so self-righteous that I did this to her. But you know what, Patti? You had it pretty fucking good, Mrs. Doctor's wife. She never worked a day in her life. She played Scrabble and tennis when she got off her fat ass at all. I am sorry I'm gay! I wish I were straight. I would cut off my right arm, my balls. I would rip my heart out to give my mother the straight doctor son she always wanted, but I just can't. I want to live for myself. Why should I break my back for everyone else paying $50,000 malpractice? I'm going to become a hairdresser. That's all I ever really wanted. I'll get a Mercedes 300D. I can lease it for $300-400 a month. No more. Just me. Done.